Send Help is the newest horror film directed by Sam Raimi, starring Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. I got to check it out over the weekend, so let's talk about it. I am obviously a huge fan of Sam Raimi and his work. I grew up on the Spider Man films, those were films that molded my love for the comic book movie genre. I also like his horror films. Obviously, you have the first two Evil Dead movies. Even though I wasn't as obsessed with those films as most people are, I do appreciate how they, he brought his own unique flair and how those movies, brought forward the horror genre. I also liked Drag Me to Hell. I thought that was really good. And I thought all of the best parts of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness were from Sam Raimi's direction. So obviously, when I heard about this film, Send Help, I couldn't help but be excited and looking forward to this film. I did, enjoy the trailers somewhat. I don't think the trailers, necessarily blew my socks off or anything like that. But now that I have seen the movie, I actually think that was for good reason because I felt like the trailers did not really give away a lot of this film. To start off with my positives on the film, I think the two leads in this film have fantastic chemistry and give great performances. Both Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien are fantastic in this film. Mostly, this film does have other people in it, but I would say about 90% of this film takes place on the island with only these two together, and they just had great chemistry. Their characters are polar opposites in this film, and what worked so well about them is that over the period of time of the movie, they start off both at one place where Rachel McAdams' character is like super awkward, super antisocial, doesn't really, have people who like her. She doesn't, you know, um, impress rooms. She's not a charismatic person. And then you get Dylan O'Brien, who is the complete opposite of that and can do all of that things. And it's why he's in such a powerful position within the company that they work. And this film does a good job over the entire runtime of slowly bringing that dynamic to an even point and then eventually tipping the scales over to Rachel McAdams' character throughout the film. And I just found that so intriguing and found that to be the reason why this film worked as well as it did because these characters started off as such polar opposites and then they are continuously polar opposites till the end, but it's like they're reversing throughout the entire film. And again, I think the marketing and the trailers did a very good job at not revealing the true nature of the dynamic and how this story plays out. There's a lot in there in the trailers that I think give you enough to understand what the basic premise of the film is, but it's not enough to give away a lot of the major plot reveals like I feel like a lot of Hollywood films do nowadays. So that was a pleasant surprise for me. Like I said, I don't think the trailers really blew me away going into this film. I was still going to see it just because it was a Sam Raimi movie and who was starring in it. But I really, really feel like the trailer does a fantastic job at hiding some of the bigger moments and the bigger surprises of this film. And then to kind of circle back on the performances, this is a standout performance for Rachel McAdams, which is crazy for me to say because obviously she has had a fantastic career so far. But I honestly think, for my personal taste, this might be her best performance of her career. And again, I talked about it earlier, but the character arc in which she goes from, where she is this like recluse, antisocial woman who, doesn't know how to socialize, doesn't really know how to work an office environment, going into this abandonment on this island and all of a sudden becoming like the apex predator of the film, and Dylan O'Brien kind of being the helpless one and, the hopeless character who can't really fend for himself. That's just such an interesting character arc, and it creates for such a unique performance from Rachel McAdams. I've never seen this type of range and just playing this type of role and character from her. So, in my eyes right now, I think this is her best performance of her career. And I really hope she gets some recognition for this role, for 2026. I don't know if she necessarily will. These aren't, this isn't the style of movie that typically like the award shows tend to, go big for and, push for. But she would deserve every ounce of it. because she's just that good in the film. And I gotta say, I actually think this movie was a lot funnier than I expected it to be. It's honestly more of like a dark comedy horror esque film. There was a lot of moments here that got genuine laughs for me. You know, both before they have the plane crash and end up on the island, and then once you get on the island and they're in this unique circumstance and have to deal with these crazy events. I really felt like the humor was very well timed, specifically from Dylan O'Brien. I think he brought some more of those comedic moments. He has like a really annoying, weird laugh throughout the entire film where he's like, and he does that a couple of times in the movie. And every single time, the theater I was in, you got a big chuckle out of that. So yeah, I was really surprised. I mean, I know that's kind of typical Sam Raimi. He tends to go, with his horror films a little bit more dark comedy. So I shouldn't have been too surprised, but it wasn't really on the front of my mind when I went to go see the film. So I really enjoyed how many laughs I got out of this movie. And then to kind of counter that, I feel like there were many very unsettling and tension filled moments. There's one instance in the film in particular. I don't want to get into specifics, but there is a moment where something is happening and it's off screen, and you just hear the noise of what is happening, and then you're only seeing the reaction of one of the characters. And if you've seen the movie, you know exactly the scene I'm talking about. But the way that it plays out just made for some of the most uncomfortable moments that I have felt in quite some time in a film. And the way that the sequence unfolds, and again, I'm not going to get into specifics, I felt like was masterfully done and was like Sam Raimi at his peak when it comes to direction and like atmosphere that he built here. And obviously, I think that the concept of this film is just super, super relatable. I think any of us who has worked in the public or has worked at a job where you have a shithead boss, I think you can really relate, to how Rachel McAdams' character feels in this film. You could decide once the film starts to evolve and you get into the gist of things, of how justified her character is and some of the actions she takes in this film. I think that is what really works well about this movie. Is it kind of asks you, it presents Dylan O'Brien's character in a way where you have to ask questions about the events that are playing out later on and how you would feel in that moment. So I really liked that. I really thought that the base concept, which a lot of people know, you could see it from the trailer, was super relatable and was one that made the experience much more enjoyable. And obviously, I have to give props to Sam Raimi. I think if you took this exact story and gave it to any other director, I just don't think this film works as well. He, with his direction, just elevates this in a way that I'm not really sure any other director could have. And that's from just like the camera angles, like I said, the way he builds tension in scenes, the way that they tell the story and how it unfolds over the course of the runtime. I just think Sam Raimi continues to demonstrate that all these years later, he's still a masterful director. And he really, any original movie that Sam Raimi makes at this point in time, I believe is a must-see. I mean, it's always been that way, but I think more so, it's been a little while since we've gotten a movie from him that I truly love. And not his fault entirely, obviously. He's been a part of some projects that I think have had a lot of studio interference and things where it wasn't truly his vision. But I think you get that here. And I think he elevates it to a level that maybe no other director really could have, because his signature flair is what makes this film really stand out. And of course, he works with Danny Elfman a lot, and the score here is just incredible. The way they use the score to set up certain scenes and balance the tone of this film, I thought was masterfully done. Again, Danny Elfman, for the most part, always puts in really, really good scores into films, and I don't think this one is different. The duo of him and Sam Raimi always hits to me, so that's no different here. I also think this film is beautifully shot. Like I said, we get those, obscure camera angles that we like from Sam Raimi. But just in general, the cinematography looks really good. I don't know how much, was on set here versus like green screen. But even if it was green screen, it looked really, really good. I really couldn't tell the difference. So hats off to the cinematography here. This is just a beautiful looking film. And to kind of wrap up my positives, this is just a very simple premise that I think is executed as well as it possibly could have, with two great lead performances and a director who has such a unique visual and storytelling flair to him, that I thought that this was just the perfect recipe for success. I saw 28 Years Later Bone Temple a couple of weeks ago, and in my mind, that was the first great movie of this year and was kind of the standard I was going to look at when I was watching movies this year. And now I feel like 2 weeks later, Send Help already exceeded that. I think so far I do prefer this to Bone Temple, and I do really, really enjoy what we got here. And honestly, I don't have a lot negative to say about this film whatsoever. But if I did have to talk about one thing, there are certain moments in this film where there are certain things, I won't really say what they are, that are clearly CGI. And I felt like some of those digital effects were a little bit wonky. Now, I think that it might have been done intentionally. Obviously, I can't confirm that. I don't really know what Sam Raimi was going for there. So it might have been done intentionally, but it did look a little bit wonky in certain scenes. But that was not really prevalent at all through the film. I mean, it maybe was 3 to 4 minutes of screen time that we got, in this with this certain digital effect. So it was not really a big negative for me at all. That was just the only thing really looking back and during the film that I felt like maybe could have been a little better. But again, guys, I really, really love this film. This is my front runner right now for my favorite film of the year. I know it's really early, but I will say that this has been a pretty strong January. Just the fact that we got this and Bone Temple in the same month on the first month of January, when normally we're expecting, dumpster fires. I'm really actually happy with the movies that we got so far in January. And I think Send Help is going to be my favorite of the bunch. So yeah, guys, I mean, go ahead and comment below, what you thought of Send Help. Let me know if you agree with me and you were as high on this film as I was and loved most of it. Go ahead and comment if you didn't and you're one of the few that was not a fan of this film, and kind of let me know your reasons why. And that's pretty much it that I got for you guys today on this film. Go out and see it, please. This is an original film directed by an amazing director and has a great cast. So this is the type of film that deserves to make some good money at the box office. So please go out and see this if you haven't already. And that is pretty much it for me. Everyone, have a great night.